Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another MMATakeover.com interview. Today's guest is a true veteran of the sport. He has been fighting pro for 14 years. He has a record of 28, 14, and 1, and is making his 17th appearance in the UFC. He fights next Saturday at UFC Fight Night 106 in Brazil against Michael Prazeras. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Burkman. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
No, we thank you. It's a pleasure as all ours. I know you're very busy. You got a fight coming up next week, so we just appreciate you taking time and being with us. So the first question we always like to ask everybody is, how did they get into mixed martial arts?
I feel like fighting's in my blood. Like my grandfather was a professional boxer.
Okay.
My dad got in a lot of fights.
Okay.
when he was growing up, and I think I was super aggressive. Growing up, my parents put us in sports to channel that, but I always liked to fight. I was playing college football and baseball. I was playing, and I was transferring up to the University of Utah to play football up there.
Okay.
I had a full ride scholarship. When I was coming home from southern Utah, I was actually moving back home. I heard this thing on the radio that said, basically they were having no holds barred fights downtown.
Okay.
And the winners, it was a tournament style, and the winners, they would fight and and you got $100 for fighting and winning. So I called in and said, "Hey, I want to fight." I didn't tell my coaches or the athletic department at the University of Utah or anything. I was getting ready to fight. I went down and fought. So that was on a Thursday. I showed up on a Friday and weighed in, and I fought on a Saturday. And this is without any kind of training ever, except for just wrestling and fighting.
Yeah.
And I went in against a kid that was 9-0. His name was Hank Weiss, and he'd won the tournament that had happened before that. And so I ended up, like I said, I just showed up and fought this dude, and I beat him up the first round pretty bad, but not bad enough. Second round, I went and sat down on my bench and looked at my corners and was like, I've never been so tired in my life. And they're like, okay, well, you better breathe because you got to go battle the cow there in 30 seconds.
Wow.
I went back out, picked the kid up, slammed him on his head, and he put me in an arm bar, and I tapped out. I just laid on the mat with a smile on my face. And that was it. I knew that I had found what I wanted to do, and that I found something that I wanted to master. And so I called up the athletic department and the athletic director at the University of Utah and told them I wouldn't be coming to school. I was going to give up my scholarship and be a professional fighter.
Wow.
And
you've had 42 fights since then. 43 if you count the fight on the Ultimate Fighter show against Melvin. You mentioned
which should definitely count, right?
Yeah.
I broke my arm. I should get credit for that.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually remember that like it was yesterday. You wanted that fight because he was talking a lot of stuff. He had a lot of hype, and then you took one of the hardest guys in the show and you called him out. And I believe you broke your hand, right? And you couldn't continue.
Yeah, Melvin was just running his mouth, man, and we had all trained together the first few days, and I couldn't believe what I thought was how much better I was than everybody else, and so Melvin was I thought it was between me, Joe Stevenson, and Melvin Gillard. And Joe Stevenson was on my team, so I told Matt Hughes, I said, listen, I'm going to fight, and I want to fight Melvin. Let's get him out of the house. And that's kind of how it went down.
Yeah.
So I fought him, I beat him, but I broke my arm in the process, and they had to send me home.
So you mentioned college football and college baseball. What positions did you play?
Baseball, I played third base, and in football, I played tailback.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good year my last season. I got All-American. I had over 1,500 yards.
Wow.
I had like 16 touchdowns. And got I had full rides from University of Utah, UNLV, and Boise State. I ended up picking the University of Utah.
Wow. And did you play running back in college too?
Yeah, I played tailback in college. That's what I played at junior college, Dixie State.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I got the scholarship to the University of Utah after my sophomore year.
So one thing about you, you've been with Pitt Elevated for a long time. Are you still with them, and how long you been with them?
Now, Pitt Elevated, it shut down.
Okay.
He actually passed away. He was a good friend, a good sponsor of mine. And a lot of us just kind of like moved around, and now I train at Budokan in Miami.
Okay.
Which is just like a mixture of calisthenics, movement, martial arts, under a guy named Cameron Shane. And then when I'm home, which I'm home right now, finishing up camp, I train with Court McGee, Ramsey Nigem,
Okay.
Steven Seiler, a group of us.
Okay.
And we just kind of run our own camps and train together. And then I just bring like training partners and coaches in as I need them.
Okay.
So I pretty much just run my own training camps now.
Really? So one question I got to ask you is you have 43 professional fights. Do you still get nervous when you fight, or is it just because you've had so many, it's just another day at the job?
I get nerves, right? Like but I know that the nerves is just knowing that a fight is approaching, right? And those nerves start to like release adrenaline and prepare your body for war, prepare your body for a fight. So I definitely get nerves. But I don't get like, I definitely am very like calm leading up to the fight. I don't get to the point where like, I pay attention to my opponents and what they do and what they're good at, but no, I get excited to fight. I'm very ready to fight. And I don't think anybody's above the nerves, but it's a matter of how your mind and how your training manages those nerves, whether you get, scared, feel like you're going to run out the back door, whatever that is. But no, I'm very prepared.
All right. So,
and I'm very confident going into this fight.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. So one thing in this amazing career that you had, 43 fights, is I noticed that you've never fought outside of North America. According to your record, I know sometimes they're not always perfectly accurate. Is this the first time you're fighting out of North America?
Yeah, it's the first time. I was supposed to fight in Brazil a couple times.
Yeah.
And both times, some stuff happened. I wasn't able to go down there and fight. So this will be the first time.
So that must be a pretty cool thing to be able to travel to, South America and fight in Brazil.
Say that again?
I said that must be pretty cool to travel to South America and get to fight in Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. I think anybody that's got some knowledge on MMA knows how big Brazil's impact and jiu-jitsu and everything has been on MMA and the growth of this sport. So to go down there and be able to fight and showcase, my martial art in front of those fans is I'm excited about it. I've got a lot of Brazilians that are around me that I've trained with over the years, and yeah, I'm excited to go out there and check it out, even if it's a hostile crowd. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I expect it to be a hostile crowd. Obviously, you're fighting a Brazilian in Brazil. They'll probably be chanting, "You're gonna die," that they like to chant a lot and stuff. I just want to transition to your record. You've been fighting. This is your second time in the UFC. You've had 2 different stints. You had a very successful run in World Series of Fighting. In between the 2 stints, unfortunately, you're on a 2 fight losing streak. My question is do you feel pressure to perform differently, being that you're on a 2 fight winning streak, that if you lose, there's a chance that they might cut you, or is it just what it is?
No, I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, I definitely feel like I need to win this fight, especially probably, to keep my job. I've had conversations with Dana. I don't think that I lost that fight against Paul Felder. It's just a judge's decision. Even my last fight was real close.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, it was close. Why didn't you pull the trigger? And, so I think that's this job. That's part of this job, right? This is a cutthroat business. And and people like winners. People don't like losers in this business. So, but the other thing is like, listen, I want to fight in the UFC. I want to end my career in the UFC. But there's a bright side to the other side also, and I made a lot of money outside of the UFC and did very well there too. So, but I definitely want to be in the UFC, competing with the best talent in the world. I believe that's where I belong, and so yeah, I better go win this fight.
All right, so you're going against Michael Prazeras. He's on a 3-fight winning streak inside the UFC. What weaknesses do you see in Prazeras that you think you can exploit? Now, obviously, I don't want you to give away your game plan, but just tell us where you think you can beat him at.
I think he's super well-rounded. I think that he's good everywhere. I think the game plan beating him, I don't think he's great off his back, no matter what color belt he has. So I think if I can get him on his back, I can put some damage on him. I think I'm a much better wrestler than him, and he doesn't really finish guys very often. At least from what I've watched, he goes to a lot of decisions. I think that I have a lot of finishing power. I think that as long as I master this weight cut, my explosion and my finishing power will be there, and I think I'm going to finish him. I think I'm going to finish him early too.
Okay, so we should expect a strong wrestling game out of you this one. So you just mentioned a weight cut. To anybody who's listening at home, we're actually filming this on Friday, the day of the weigh-ins for UFC 209. Obviously, the big story in MMA right now is the awful news about Khabib Nurmagomedov missed weight today. Actually, he didn't miss weight. He didn't even make it to the weigh-ins. He was hospitalized because of a current weight cut. What is your current weight? And you're a week away from your weigh-ins. What's the current weight for you?
Right now, I'm right around 170. I'm 168. I think I'm probably 169 right now. I'll go through a fast and a cleansing on Sunday, and I should be about 165, and I plan on later into Brazil, right around 165, 10 pounds over. And if I do that, I should be able to make the cut pretty easy. It hasn't been that easy for me to last the fight lightweight. I think I've done what I need to do to manage that. And sometimes, I think the weight cut is all about the preparation. And I don't know what, I just know what. That?
Yeah, Josh, you still there? We're losing you.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. We just lost you for 1 second. I heard you just talking about preparation. Just pick up right there.
Yeah, I just think that's the biggest thing, and I'm curious. Did you guys know what Khabib was cutting from, or what he walks around at?
I know. I've heard. Obviously, there's rumors. There's rumors that he walks as high as 190. I don't know. You'd know better than we do.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that he didn't, but he's. It sounds like he's had some problems with it before. And I just wish I had won a couple fights previous to this, because I jumped on the phone and said, Dana, I'll jump on a plane and fight.
Yeah.
Fight him tomorrow. And Dana laughed. He's like, thank you. But weight cut's a big part of this sport. I think that UFC does what they can to manage it. I think that also make them maybe put some more restrictions on us. I think the guys are cutting too much weight, and I think they're coming in the next day too big. And I think that the UFC could, and the sport could do something about that. I think that, hey, if you say you can't come in 15 pounds over what you weighed in at to fight, I think that would help manage some of the weight cutting. You show up 10 pounds over and you don't get to put 15 pounds back on.
Yep.
And I think that would help manage some of this stuff. And I think our sport will evolve and head that direction. We're just not there yet. We're still a new sport. We're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I know this in wrestling. A lot of times they do the 2-day weigh-ins, where you weigh one weight and then you got to make another weight the next day. In certain states, they do that. I think that's something that would be great, because then guys couldn't cut as much because they couldn't put as much pounds. So say, you got to weigh 155 one day, the next day you got to be 162, something, whatever they decide the weight is. I think that'd be great. So you mentioned going to Brazil. When do you leave for Brazil?
I leave to Brazil on Monday. So final preparations are going on today and tomorrow. Sunday I'll cut some weight, get ready for the trip, and I'm on my way Monday. I leave Monday, I get there Tuesday.
All right, so let's focus on generally on your career. What would you say is the greatest accomplishment so far in your career, or something that you're most proud of?
14 years.
Just the longevity of.
Just the longevity that I'm still doing this, and that I've been fighting at a high level. You know, the highest level for over 12 of those years. You know, and I think that you know, and I've also planned on fighting when I was 40 years old. You know, I managed my career in a way to be able to do that. I think probably the peak of my career, though, you know, and where I think that also was, you know, the highlight that went over John Fitch.
Okay, yeah, John Fitch, yeah.
And not just in the manner that I did it, but John Fitch is the only person who's ever really beat me up. He beat me up a little bit in 2007, and I was going to make sure that didn't happen again. So, getting revenge, you know, on him, and then I also, my third fight of my career lasted 3 seconds. That was pretty.
Yeah.
So, those two things are probably the highlights.
Yeah. So let's talk about John Fitch real quick. Obviously, he has a win over you. You have a win over him. He's obviously World Series of Fighting. There's talk about retirement because of health issues. You're in the UFC. If somehow your paths cross, is that a fight that you interested in just to finish up the trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one that me and John Fitch want. You know, I think if John Fitch gets back to UFC, or for some reason I was out, that fight would happen, I'd make the World Series of Fighting, pay me some good money for it. I think John Fitch would too. But yeah, I think it's 1-1.
Yeah,
got to even the score. Or I guess somebody's got to go out ahead.
Sure.
I'd also take every decision fight that I ever went to. I'd do that again too, so we can finish them.
Okay.
I've had a lot of close decisions. Mike Swick, Carl Parisian.
Yep.
Paul Felder. Jordan Main. Zach Otto. I lost all those fights to decision.
Now, if you get...
So you watch those fights. They really beat me up. They didn't do nothing to me. I'd like to finish those fights.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. If you beat Prazeras next Saturday, is that something you might want to call out? You might want to call out a Paul Felder or something like that? Because, you know, they go, hey, what's next for you? Is that something you want to say, hey, let me get Paul Felder. I thought I won that fight. Let's do it again. Or is it just whoever they give you?
No. I think that there's other guys definitely I'd want to fight. Paul Felder's a guy. There's just other guys that I probably dislike more than Felder that I'd rather punch in the face.
Anybody in particular?
Well, I mean, I think my goal and everybody's goal is to punch Conor McGregor in the face right now.
Of course.
I got some work to do to be able to do that. But anybody, you know, I think that, you know, the last probably 2 years, you know, my mixed martial arts training for fights, my emotion hasn't been in it as much as it should have been. I went through a divorce. I had 2 little boys. And, you know, my focus is back. My attention is, I think you'll see a big difference in the way that I perform against Prazeras than I did the last couple fights. And a big part of that is just like I said, I was going through a divorce and managing emotions of my ex-wife and my 2 little boys, and I'm in a much different place now. And I think mastering this weight cut and this weight class, I think that I can beat anybody. So after Prazeras, you know, I want to fight guys that are in the top 15, prove that I'm one of the best, and just climb the ladder. So yeah, it'll be somebody in the top 15, so I can get my name up in there.
Okay. I'm sorry they had to go through that. You talked about going through divorce and stuff. I'm sorry you had to go through that. So we always do this thing. We call it the Fan Forum Question of the Week. This week comes in from Jay Martin. He's from Johnson, Rhode Island. His question is, who is your all-time favorite fighter?
My all-time favorite fighter,
Yeah.
Mike Tyson,
Mike Tyson.
hands down.
Okay.
I think Mike Tyson's highlights and when Custom Auto was alive and the way that he
Yeah.
moved and fought. I mean, I think Tyson was the most incredible fighter that there's been.
Now, he's at all the UFCs. Have you got a chance to meet him?
Yeah, I've met Mike Tyson a couple times.
Oh, that's cool.
He even come backstage after a couple of my fights to talk to me and give me some advice. And Mike Tyson's a very, very cool, very humble dude. My dad kind of became buddies, takes pictures with him all the time. Yeah, it's very cool to meet Mike Tyson. And then, like I say, he's very approachable and very cool.
Oh, cool. Cool, yeah. It seems like a lot of fighters, I know they've done things like Khabib is a big fan of him. Glover Teixeira is a guy that always talks about how big of a fan he is. So he's very respected by MMA fighters, even though he was a boxer. One thing we always like to do is always get a prediction. What is your prediction of the main event? We got a Brazilian legend, Vitor Belfort. He's fighting Kelvin Gastelum on the same card as you. What's your prediction for that fight?
I got to think that I think after the way that Kevin Gastelum beat Tim Kennedy, that he's a force in that weight class.
Okay.
And I think Vitor's, I think he's slowing down a little bit. I think he's still dynamic, and I still think he's got some knockout power, and can still fight. But I don't know that he's got the juice to go 3 rounds with Gastelum. I think Gastelum beats him.
Okay. And let's hear your prediction for your fight against Michael Prazeras.
I'm gonna finish the fight in the first round.
Any method? Knockout, submission?
I'm gonna hit him in the jaw and put him to sleep.
Okay. So anybody who's out there gambling, make sure you parlay Kelvin Gastelum and Josh Burkman. Put those two together to win some big money. All right. So
I'm pretty good at picking. I mean, I think those are both pretty dead on.
All right. So my last question, we let you get out of here. We appreciate your time. My very last question to you, Josh, is: have you submitted to the takeover?
Josh Burkman, I just submitted to the takeover.
Josh, we thank you for your time. We thank you for just telling us about your great career. We wish you luck in your fight against Michael Prazeras, and welcome to the MMA Takeover family.
Right on. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Guys, that was our interview. That was our interview with Josh Burkman. He fights next week, UFC Fight Night 106 on Fox Sports. Make sure you check him out. Also, make sure you check out our website, themmmatakeover.com. That's themmmatakeover.com for all the best coverage. And check us out on all the social media sites. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And thank you for listening.